So the match has just concluded between New Zealand and France, a last-minute thriller in which the French got the victory 30 points to 29. It was a back-and-forth game, New Zealand getting off to a great start in this contest, but the French firing back, slowly building back into the game, and then eventually winning by the one. But in this review, we're going to be looking through at what happened in this game, the try scorers, the key players, and also the ones who didn't step up, because unfortunately for both of these sides, there were actually quite a few who fell into that category. But right from the get-go, New Zealand faced a little bit of adversity. Samapeni Finau knocked out within the first 90 seconds of this game. It brought on Peter Lakai, a man who had only had a little bit of game time up against the Japanese, but he well and truly stood up to the task, made his way out there and got himself the first try of the match for the All Blacks. The second try for the ABs came in the form of Cam Roigard, stripping the back of the French scrum off Gregory Aldrit and then scoring it too. But that is actually where the tries ended for New Zealand. 26 minutes is when Roigard scored his. Other than that, no other tries coming for the ABs. Here, in terms of this French side, we saw 3 tries being scored, the first of which by Buros. That was in the 32nd minute. Bodian scored in the 43rd, and then Belbari, the foot race, he has got pure pace, and he won it 50 minutes into the game and scored himself the impressive try. But France, they did try and use that tactic again a little bit later on in the game, and Adi Savia, of all players, to be back there to be able to cover. It was certainly a big day at the office for him, but he played like a 7. He ran the ball, he made his tackles. Wallace Satiti doing brilliantly in that number 8 jersey as well. So I feel like they're starting to find their loose forward trio, and I could honestly see Peter Lakai slotting in as the number 7. But in terms of this French side, we saw the likes of Gregory Aldrit quite a bit in those breakdowns. Pieter Malvaca, big physical bloke in that number 2 jersey. Although early on, New Zealand were able to control the lineouts. Couple steals for Tupovai, also Scott Barrett working extremely hard. But in the back lines, I don't think New Zealand utilised their backs to the best of their ability. A lot of the time it got shut down when it either reached the 12 or the 13. We didn't really see a huge amount of Sevu Reece throughout this game either. And then Beauden Barrett at 10. He didn't go for any chips behind, but he did go for a grubber that cost New Zealand maybe about 50 metres and actually led to that Belbari try. McKenzie, when he made his way off the bench, whoever you go for in that McKenzie and Barrett combination debate in that number 10 jersey is irrelevant. But in this case, I think that McKenzie off the bench seemed to bring that little bit more impact. He managed to get his kicks over, which became very important as this match got closer and closer. But overall, I just don't know what they're going to do in that 10 jersey. I know what they're not going to do off the bench, though, and that is take Roigard off as early as they did. That man had a very solid game to be taken off with around 20-something minutes to go. Brought Ratimer on, and 3 massive mistakes from that young man. And of course, he's still learning the Stade de France. I mentioned about it. It's a cauldron. It heats up out there on the field in those closing moments. You either handle the pressure or you do crumble under it. And in this case, Ratimer sadly did crumble. But for the French, of course, Antoine Dupont, extremely busy throughout this game. I think Buros at number 15 was extremely strong for a guy who's just come in on debut, got himself that first try, and just looked solid enough that New Zealand weren't really able to test those kicks out going in behind this French defensive line. But there was a lot of first receiver running the ball up, and I feel like that was a bit of a concern. The All Blacks normally at their best when they're running that ball as often as possible and getting it out the back line, but we just didn't really see it in this game. But overall, there's a lot that can be talked about from this game in terms of the improvements that both sides will want to make. We've got to remember, yes, France got the win here, but they were far from flawless. Quite a few errors coming along the way, and those lineouts, of course, something that the French will want to work on, as well as maybe the scrums. I think scrums were extremely hard to judge from this game. It seemed like New Zealand were getting the better of them, but never really got any penalty of sorts for those scrummaging moments. But discipline and handling. It's been the summary of the November internationals. The sides who are doing it better are the sides that are winning games. And New Zealand just 1 point short here, couple times taken 3 late. Could have looked for the corner, but instead they will just miss out. But in terms of what is next, New Zealand, they have got Italy in their next game. That is next weekend. I do believe we'll see quite a few changes made. And then in terms of the French, they have got the Argentines. That will be a very entertaining game. A rematch of the 2 games that we saw in July. In that series, it was 1-1. Who knows who will take that next one out. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this review, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all for the next one.